Hey loves, I have not showed my face today. A video will not be on my YouTube channel. A part of me wanted to go on there and talk about loss, but I can't stop crying. So I don't think I'll be able to even get through it, if I'm being honest. I can't even get through this, and I'm only doing this because so many have asked and messaged me and asked how I'm doing, and I appreciate it so much, so much. My dad died on Monday morning. And you guys knew that I was supposed to see him on Tuesday, and I was going to do things with him when I was done with my day on Tuesday. We had all of these plans, and the sad thing is the plans that we had would have made this entire process easier. He was putting me on his account. And now I have to find the paper that is a power of attorney because people are just immediately, it is, when someone dies, you should just be able to be sad and fully just figure out what needs to be done later. For me, it is, when I say day one, seconds, maybe minutes of me getting there, money's being mentioned. And it's just, it is so disgusting to see people's reactions when somebody dies. And for one, it's just like, he's my dad. My dad. I have been with him since I was 1 year old. He raised me. I didn't have him for 3 or 4 years. He didn't kind of raise me for a few years. He's not my stepdad. He is my dad. He introduced me to everybody that he was my dad and I was his daughter. So the fact that that it isn't by default, and I'm not saying everybody, because it's like a 60-40, where the higher number, of course, is just like, dude, you knew that Brandy took care of everything for both, not just one, for both. I've always been the one that did anything that it came to paperwork, finances, and I've been doing it since I was a little girl, okay? You guys, I remember talking about it on here not too long ago, saying, yeah, I was that kid who had to translate and read documents to my grandma and my grandpa when I was little and I was going to school, government documents, court documents, anything. I would be the one doing it. Nobody else was fucking there. So it's disgusting when people want to start finally being around when someone's dead, when it was just like, really? Really? Now? Just let me be sad. Let me be hurt. I told myself I was going to go back over there today, but I can't. I haven't had time to just fully grasp that he will never, ever call me again. I haven't been able to fully accept that I will not kiss him again. I will not fully smell him and hug him and feel him, and I feel like the only people who could understand this are people who have lost a parent and was close to their parent. When I tell you, I've talked to friends even in the past when they lost their parent, and they would explain and talk to me about how they felt, but I think even they knew that you cannot explain this pain unless you've been through it. And someone could have empathy and look at you and want to be sad with you, but it's a pain that you've lost a child or you've lost a parent, and I bet even losing a child is way worse. And I can't imagine feeling this 10 times worse than what I'm feeling right now. I can't even imagine. I can't function. I can't sleep. I'm not hungry. Yesterday I was over there and it was just so much talking of crap that I don't even have his death certificate yet. Can we just wait? Like, why? Why can't we just be... I know he wasn't to you what he was to me, and I know at the end I have to be the one that makes all the decisions, but I just want to be left alone when it comes to that stuff. I don't want to worry about it. I want to stay in bed. I want to take today and just... I don't even know. Learn how to function without that person. Like, he was my safety net, and it's not just financially. Like, I will learn to survive. He was the person that I would always know that I could count on and ask for anything. I'd always post it. I was like, my dad has me, and to not have that forces you to grow up a little quicker than you wanted to. And of course, I'm 43. But I think people who are close to their parents always know that they still have that safety net. It's not just for finances. It's like, he knew when I was sad. He knew when even I'd post things and he would see the stories or see me, he would call me and he knew if something was wrong. He just knew. And I've lost that with my grandmother because she's not all there anymore. So when I would talk to her, it would be because he would call me and then he'd give her the phone. But I've already slowly had to accept that my grandmother isn't 100% herself now. And now the one person that I felt is no longer. So now my poor grandma has lost her life partner that she's been with for well over 50 years. And she has dementia, so she's not all there. You guys... We don't know if it was cardiac arrest or what it was exactly. That's the coroner says she thinks that that's what it is, but she can't confirm until the autopsy is done. But he passed away when he was in the middle of helping my grandma do something. He was doing his morning routine with her. And when he transitions her from the restroom, he puts her in the couch because it's easier for him. My dad is a really small, fragile guy. In the pictures and videos that I've posted, that was before he started having like this issue with his leg. I remember telling you guys like his leg would always get swollen, but he did not believe in doctors. Everything was holistic and natural. And when someone passes for something, it just makes you angry because... I mean, even my cousin Star was like, why didn't you force him to go? And it's just like, I know where your intentions are, and she's right. I will always regret not going and forcing him. I had power of attorney. I could have forced him to go. I could have made him go. But I felt like if I did that and I stepped over that, you guys know if you're Hispanic, I would betray him. I felt like he would think that I had just... betrayed him, and I couldn't, but now I regret it. I'd rather him be mad at me and still be here than not. And maybe I was guarding myself because I couldn't handle him being mad at me if I overstepped. But he constantly had his problem with his feet, his leg. It would get swollen, and it's just the last year it's gotten worse than it has ever been. It's something he struggled with for years. He never went to the doctors to figure out what it was. So from what I think, and I talked to a nurse practitioner who was his landlord, she said, what I think happened, this is, just her suggestion. Her husband was a doctor and her son was a neurologist. So she feels that the swelling in his leg, it was like a form of an infection or something. And it just started attacking his body more and more every time he got it, which anyone else would think, okay, I used to get it every few years. Now I was getting it once a year. Then from once a year, it was every few months, and it would last for weeks or months. Let me go to the doctor, because I got to figure out, even if they tell me what it is and I want to take care of it in a holistic way, at least I know what it is. But he didn't even want to do that. And I remember asking him, like, let's just go, let's just check. Even my husband would tell him, would you just get it looked at? Like, that's it. Like, Brandy will go with you. I'll ask the questions, whatever you want, I'll translate them. Like, I didn't mind doing anything like that. And he's like, no. Está bien. He would always say that it was the devil trying to bring him down, and he was going to show him. And because my grandmother isn't all there, she remembers what happened when you ask her and talk to her. But I think right when it happened, because of the dementia, I don't know what happened in her head or what she was thinking. But he was not fully dressed, because he would walk around the house not fully dressed. As his house. With like his shirts on and stuff, but like boxers or whatever he had. He was walking barefoot. My dad doesn't walk anywhere barefoot. So I think it was right after he left the room and he sat her down because he was changing her. He went straight. So the swelling in his leg was a form of an infection. She's just saying that, speculation. And he, because he continued to not address it or take antibiotics or figure out what it is, that it got to his blood and like infected his blood or poisoned his blood. I don't know how I can't even remember how she said it. I was crying while she was talking. And then that went to his heart and he had cardiac arrest from that. So from what they think it was, because it happened in the morning. My mom was with my niece and she lives in the same like apartment complex. And when I got my dad's phone, I was able to see that I had called him at 10:21 and he didn't answer. And it felt weird. And I was in the area getting things done and so many things went wrong for me. And there's a part of me that feels like those things happened because I was not meant to find him like that. But then there's a part of me that is just like, he was found dead, hunched over the walker, walking towards the door. And you could see he had a bike in front of the door. I think you guys have seen it. And his hand was reached over because he was trying to go to the door. And I know that he felt that something was wrong, something very different. And he was trying to get out of the house. Like his arm was over like the bike and his whole body. He was bent over like this over my grandmother's walker. And my mom got there. Something told her to just go check because he hadn't been responding. And I didn't continue force calling. And if I would have and he didn't answer, I would have called my mom to go check. But I was like, don't be that person. Sometimes, I'm in therapy trying to learn, like, don't think worst case scenario. And this is one of those times where, but this is one of the reasons why it's hard to tell someone who thinks worst case scenario not to think that way. Because then something like this happens and it's almost like you're confirmed, like, see, if I was thinking the same way I was thinking before, I would have been there. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have found him dead. I probably still would have. But we wouldn't have had to see him the way he was. His body was there for at least 7 hours. And my poor grandma was left on the couch with no bottoms because he hadn't fully dressed her back up. At 10:20, he didn't answer the phone. There was still eggs out and they had eaten breakfast. So it happened around 9 or 10 in the morning. and my mom didn't go to check on them till 5:30, 5:30, and I received the call around 5:45. I'll never forget that call. My cousin Star had to call me. My mom called her mom because they're closer. I was a little angry. I understand it's because they're closer, and I understand that she's the one that takes care of my grandma for the most part. My mom and her have been taking care of my grandmother. It's just, it was my dad. So, but my mom said, like, I didn't think about you. I was nervous. I was scared. My mom tried to open the door and his body was there hunched over. And she starts yelling towards my grandma. And my grandma's like, I don't know. He's sleeping. He's sleeping? She couldn't tell the difference, that he would never sleep in that position. She was just, and she can't move really. To hear that she said, and my mom told me, she said, está durmiendo, él está bien, he's sleeping, he's fine. When the officers came, before they had to call the coroner, they wouldn't let me in the house. So they didn't even let us change my grandmother. So she was just sitting there. They allowed my mom to put a blanket over, because my mom had to push his body a little bit to get in. It just finally hit my mom yesterday, and she was just, she couldn't. And I'm mad that she didn't call me first, because so many things could have been avoided. When I tell you I got there, it was already drama. I was just like, it makes you angry, and it makes you want to do things, because I know technically I have the rights to everything, and there was a part of me that wanted to stoop to that level. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna turn my house upside down to find that paper, because I put it in a place where I told myself, put it here, it's safe in case you ever need it. I always thought I'd need it for my grandma, not my grandfather. And I think nobody was ready for him to pass first. Nobody. So I put it in such a safe place, and now I can't find it. So I need to find it. But there was a part of me after I dealt with that within the first 5 minutes of being there, that I wanted to come home, find the paper, call the cops, and tell everybody to get the fuck out. Get the fuck out and leave me the fuck alone. I am in charge. But for what? I have to be the one that doesn't go crazy, because I'm not keeping anybody from my grandmother. Everybody loves her so much, but this was my dad. And there's a difference. She can be taken care of, and go ahead and do what you need to do, but everything else falls under me. And it was so... I needed to calm down a little bit, and I'm probably going to start crying again. My throat feels weird. I know my voice isn't completely there. I haven't been able to fully breathe since I found out. My ears keep on popping. It's a lot. But my mom was in there with my grandmother. They had the screen door closed and wouldn't let anybody else in. So all I could see through the door is my dad dead in that position. And my cousin was trying to get me away, because she said I didn't need to look at that. But I felt like I was leaving him alone. And I felt like he already died alone. How scared was he? When did he realize that it was too late and he was going to die? Like, just... I didn't want to leave him alone. So I didn't care that he was in that position like I did. And I hate that image is in my head, but I couldn't. I already felt guilty. Like, why didn't you come earlier? Maybe you would have found him right before it happened. Why didn't you come visit again on Friday when he called you? He didn't ask me to, but he called me, and I was getting a few things done for him on Friday. I spoke to him on Friday, and it was quick conversation, like, okay, I took care of it. This is what happened, and this is how we're going to fix it. But then again, everything will be fine on Tuesday, because we're going to fix everything on Tuesday. So we're going to make it so much easier for you and me to help you. And you hear all the time when people are like, well, we were gonna do this, and we were just gonna do this. So every time somebody asks me something about like his account or money, when it is disgusting. Like, you would think that people would know. Nothing can be done until the death certificate. I mean, I've known that. I've always known that. Doesn't matter if I have documents that put me in control after he's gone, or because he was my grandma's caretaker. So by default, anything that he was responsible for, I would be responsible for. None of that matters until we get the death certificate. We can call anybody we want. It doesn't matter. We don't have the death certificate. And it sucks because you just have to wait. But in a way, it's almost like they're forcing you. Just take this time to accept that it's official. There is no undoing it. And I just wish everybody would do that. But they're just, it's all. And I will say, like, a lot of us got together. I haven't talked to my cousin in a while. We had a falling out after my video that I posted. He only knew part of the story, not the full story that he heard from, his mom. And it ended up to where after he told me what he told me, I sent my response back saying, this is my version, this is what happened. And my mom had talked to his mom and said, like, this is Brandy's side. All of that was done. I don't know if he responded because I blocked him on everything. Like, I just knew I needed that for my mental health. And my brother hasn't spoken to me for 4 or 5 years. The most he said to me is, where's grandma? Like, if we were somewhere where she was at. But that's it. And he hugged me, and my cousin hugged me, and it was just, I wanted to just keep my distance. So I wish I would have spent more time with them on Thursday. So, like I said, I hadn't spoken to my brother, and when I got there, my mindset was, I'm okay. They knew him too. He was with me all the time, but they knew him. Like, my grandfather raised my cousins for a few years, and he was there for my brother for a while. Like, they all know him. It's still their grandfather. They just weren't extremely close because technically he's not biological, but that's the only grandfather that they know. But they didn't have, like, because of the type of person he was, they didn't have like that's my grandpa relationship. It was like, that's my grandpa, So I was just sitting there in shock, and they ended up closing the door while the coroner came, and they came and hugged me. And I just cried because it was nice for them to do that. And there's a part of me that's still in that healing therapy process where it was like, everything's not okay. You still haven't apologized. Because that's one of the things that I want to get past when it comes to my family. Like, they do a whole lot of really hurtful things, and then they don't apologize. They'll just see you at another event, and it's like, hey, what's up? Like, nothing happened. And if you hold the grudge and they're like, fuck you, then whatever, bye. Still not acknowledging or taking responsibility for their part. So it wasn't the time for that. It didn't matter. And if they want to be mad at me after this is done and still not talk to me, that's fine. But my brother was concerned for me yesterday. He cooked for my grandmother, and he came, and was, it was awesome. He made it a point to make her whatever her little heart desired. And he had on salsa for her because she loves that music. And he made it a point to put food aside for me because I was in another room talking to my uncle, because, again, everything is who's handling what's going to happen. And it seemed as if a lot of people are offended or taken back by the fact that none of this had been discussed with them or brought up, but they all know my grandfather did not care about death or care to talk about death. He was very religious. He already knew that when I die, this is where I'm going. If you'd ask him, like, what do you want to do with your stuff if something happens? He would just say, I won't be here. You can do whatever you want with it. But it was always, he knew I was going to be in charge. He was like, you can do whatever you want with it. I won't be here. Or if your grandma wants to do anything with it, let her do whatever. But then he would joke that she's going to go before me. And she would joke saying, oh, watch, I'm going to live longer than you, you know, when she was in a better place mentally. So for that to happen, the way nobody could have even imagined for it to happen, just right now I'm doing a whole lot of what ifs. And I think everybody does that. This process would have been a little bit easier, and I could have told everybody to pretty much just, I got this, leave me alone, if I would have just stayed longer on Thursday. And I'm not supposed to do that to myself. Everybody says stop doing that to yourself. And I'm sure I've said that to people too who have talked to me about their loss. But then it happens to you. You can't help but think of, why didn't I just sit down and hang out with them and laugh and joke on Thursday? That would have been my final memory. My memory was getting there, giving my grandmother a big hug and a kiss, sitting down and talking to them for a little bit. What I did notice when I got there is my dad didn't make me breakfast. He always makes me breakfast when I come. He always calls and asks me, have you eaten? We'll wait to eat until you get here. Always. And he didn't do that day. And he had spoken the day before because he knew I was coming in the morning. So I got there and I was like, okay, what is it that you need? Okay, we'll do this. And then I was sitting on his computer, and I just remember telling him, let's do this and let's do that, and I'll call the landlord, and are you going to come with me when I go to the post office? And he's like, do I have to? And I was like, no, I could do it on my own if you want. And he was like, okay, that's fine. And a part of me, sorry, I was getting a call, telemarketer. And a part of me wishes I would have had him come in the car with me. Like, he could have just sat in there and been next to me. Like, just to have him near me, but I didn't know it was the last time. If anything, I literally thought I was going to see them on Tuesday. And the thing was, I was going to be in Orange County doing a few things. And all I thought to myself is, I'm going to go hang out with them to avoid traffic, and I'm going to eat dinner, and this is what we're going to do. I put it off. It's so cliche because you always hear people talk about things after someone passes. And those people, which I'm sure now I'll be more of that person. My dad didn't really take too many pictures. I have like none of him and I when I was little, except for like when I was 1 year old in Puerto Rico, and for some reason I cannot find that picture, and I have it in my head and I remember what it looks like, but I can't find it. And it's him holding my hand, and he's walking. We're walking on the sidewalk in front of our house in Puerto Rico, and I think I'm like 2, 2, maybe even 3. But that's it, because he didn't take pictures. Like, nobody has too many pictures of him. He just wasn't a picture person. The videos that I took, I know I have some on here on my stories. I don't know when I'll have time to just look through all of them. I wish Instagram did the same thing Facebook does, when it's like you could look on each day, and every day it just shows you all those memories from that day. On IG, you just have to go, like on here, on Snap, I can do it. But everywhere else, I can't. Or on IG, I can't. And I want to find every single video I can find of him. I would record conversations that I would have with him when I would go over there sometimes. There was something that told me, just record your guys' whole interaction from when you get there and you're sitting there, and just the conversations you have with him and your grandma. Just record them for memory so you can refer back to them. One's 40 minutes, one's 8 minutes. You always have people talk about things they would have done. And the way my brain has always worked, which is definitely not a healthy way of thinking, but then there's a part of me because of this situation is like, that's why I do that. Why do you record everything? Why? I don't always have every amount of space on my phone, so I record things on my stories and my Snapchat and my Facebook, and I even clear my phone sometimes, and I'll post videos that I'm okay with posting on my Facebook so I have them for later. And I do that because I always think to myself, maybe you're annoyed that I'm doing videos or pictures. Like my cousin Star, she's not a fan of any of that, but sometimes she's kind of cool with it and she'll just go with it. But other times she's like, did you just record that? Like, why are you recording it? And sometimes I'll tell them like, it's just for me. And then I'll email it to myself or save it because it's a funny moment where we're all laughing and just getting along. And I always think to myself, if something happens to one of us, we can all have this to look at later. Like, if anything happens to me, everybody knows that if they ask my husband and go into my phone or go into my computer or go into any of my accounts, they will find themselves. The thing is, nobody records me but me. But people in my family, when they've lost somebody else or friends that I know, they're like, do you have the video of this? Or did you ever take any pictures of this person? Because I'm that person. And I always wanted to respect my grandfather and not make him uncomfortable or make him feel like he was going to have to look at me and say, I don't want you to record that, because I know he knew it would hurt my feelings. So I never put myself in that situation, and I kind of regret it. I'm grateful that I have that. I'm grateful that I have the pictures. Yesterday, I listened to all the messages. Like I said, one's 40 minutes, one's 8 minutes, one's 10 minutes. Another one's like 4 minutes, but you can hear him very faint in the back. I think I was talking to my grandma. There's another one where you can hear my mom more than anything. And I was a little annoyed when I was hearing it because in my mind, I'm like, I didn't record this to hear your voice. I did it to hear my dad's. But then there's a part of me where it's like, if my mom goes before me, I'm going to want to hear her voice on there. So then there was a part of me that was just like, it's her personality. And when she's angry and she's feeling some type of way, sometimes you're just like, okay, well, we're going to go now. But like I said, when it came to all of this, which I think is something that you don't think that you're going to have problems with your relatives. Some people know. Some people are like, you didn't think that was going to happen. But I think for me, by default, I just thought, that's my grandfather. That's my dad. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And for anything that has to do with my grandma, by default, because he was her caretaker, it falls on me. And then I have no problem saying, hey, here, she's your mom. And that's okay. Because I'm aware that she's not 100% herself. And I'm aware that there was times that they were, dealing with their lives. And now they have the time to give to her. And they do, a lot, they do. So that's okay. I do, but, it's not a competition. And I know my other cousins, they would come see her randomly at so many different times. They would do things for her at so many different times. My brother would too. My sister would call and check on them all the time. So everyone has a connection, mainly to my grandmother. They knew that they would have to talk to my dad to get to her because she wasn't always there. So if they had questions on her health or anything, they would ask him, or they would just physically go and then ask him. But when it comes to anything pertaining to my dad, it was me. I did everything. I was his phone call. When my mom or anybody else would ask, hey, maybe you should do this, I'll help you. And he would just be like, no. And then he'd call me and say, this person suggested this. Maybe we could do this. Do you have time to come down? I was the person that he relied on. There's a reason why. There's a reason why he trusted me. I'm his daughter, and I've always been his daughter. I always looked at it as in their 40s, or my grandma's 40s and his like late 30s. Now that wow. When they got together a long time ago, before me, of course, they couldn't have kids because my grandmother had her tubes tied. And they always talked about it and was always sad that they didn't have it. So when they had the opportunity to have me, and my mom had no problem because she wasn't in a good place, she gave me to them. And it was like they got the daughter they could never have together. So that's why I have this, like, I'm their daughter. You're her kids. Like I was saying, she's your mom. And in that aspect, she's my grandma. He's my dad. And they're my parents. She's yours. He's mine. But they're mine. Does that make sense? And it's not, I don't want to do this. I know I'm in control of everything at the end of the day, but I don't, like, if there's things that they have a memory connected to with him, as long as I don't have an extremely stronger connection to it, if that's something you want, that's fine. I have no problem. But there's certain things that have sentimental value for him and I. But I also know that I don't have space. Okay, sorry, I received a phone call. So my thing is, he has kids, his kids in Florida, and he has 3 kids, and the other 2 left the oldest in charge of whatever she wants to do. And she spoke to me and she's like, I just want to make sure that, he did tell me that he had something on the side, and I don't know exactly. So if you can just let me know what it is, and I'll honor whatever my dad wanted. And I'm pretty sure that she knows I would do the same thing. So since I'm here and she's not here, I have to do what I know he would want me to do. And I don't mind talking to her about it, or us figuring it out together. Like, I have no problem with that at all. But by default, even though I have that document, which I'm going to get it, I still know that my grandmother, because she's his wife, by default has the rights to everything of his. Now, the only reason why I do is because it was placed in the paperwork that if he was unable to, and she signed it, I would be in charge of what he was originally in charge of, which was her. And I would be in charge of anything for her. And I am giving that to my aunt, because she's going to Puerto Rico. My grandmother's going to go to Puerto Rico, and I don't need any of it. I don't need to be in charge of anything for my grandmother. I just want to make sure that I take care of everything that my grandfather would have wanted me to take care of for him. And I know what he would have wanted me to take care of for him, because I know my dad. I know him better than anyone else in my family, besides maybe my grandma. Searching for documents when someone passes away and not having them in a secure place, not smart on my behalf at all. And I hate that it has to be done, and I hate that it can't just be something as easy as, we knew that he would have left you in charge of everything anyway, so do it. And we want to be around. If they want to hover, I don't care. It is what it is. But to take charge in a way that he would have never allowed anybody to try to take charge over is, it's just heartbreaking. It's sad. It's unnecessary. It's almost as if there's this competition where there shouldn't be. So it feels as if, and Kevin made a good point, that everyone is worried about what money my grandma's going to get or what she is entitled to over here. But nobody cares. I'm the one standing alone for anything for my grandfather. No one's advocating for him. They think that they're advocating for my grandmother, but it's for things that were his. And I have no problem giving it to my grandmother, but I'm not okay with anyone taking advantage of her state of mind, with anybody. Like, she comes in and out. She's definitely coherent most of the time as well. Like, she can have full conversations with herself, but there's no way you can say that there's a part of her that isn't, when she was there with my poor grandfather's body behind her for 7 hours and she couldn't call anybody because she could barely move. You don't like... A ver si voy al baño otra vez.
Uno, dos, dos, dos. Ok, ahí está. Ahora vamos a ver la primera parte. Después.
The first part. La primera parte is the first part. Do you remember?
No.
Oh, look it.
More. More. No. Can you hear? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Another side.